September 7th, 1665. 6,988 plague deaths in 1 week. The Royal College of Physicians fled London, the surgeons fled London, the apothecaries fled London. The men who stayed and wore the beaked masks, they weren't doctors at all. You wake before dawn in a rented room near Aldgate, pulling on a leather coat that hasn't been cleaned in weeks because everyone knows washing releases the corrupted vapors trapped in the hide. By the time the sun rises, you've already strapped on the mask, that 6-inch beak stuffed with rose petals, camphor, and dried lavender that's supposed to filter poisonous air. It doesn't. Welcome to History Snapshots. This is what life as a plague doctor really looked like. And what you're about to discover is that almost everything about the iconic figure is a lie. The Great Plague of 665 killed roughly 100,000 Londoners, 15% of the city's population. When it arrived in spring, the educated physicians did exactly what their wealth allowed. They left. The men who remained were a different breed entirely. Some were barber surgeons with minimal training. Others were simply opportunists hired by parish councils, desperate for anyone willing to walk into infected homes. The city needed bodies to count the dead, enforce quarantines, and perform the grim theater of medical intervention. You were paid 4 shillings per visit, 4 times a laborer's daily wage. But the money came with a price: social death, near-certain infection, and a role that made you both essential and despised. The costume you wear isn't medical equipment, it's a symbol. The full outfit was codified by Charles Delorme, physician to Louis XIII, in 1619. A floor-length waxed leather overcoat, gloves, boots, a wide-brimmed hat to mark your authority, and that beaked mask. The beak was filled with ambergris, myrrh, mint, rose petals, and sometimes ground viper. The theory, rooted in miasma doctrine, held that plague spread through corrupted air, foul-smelling vapors rising from filth and decay. The aromatic herbs were supposed to purify each breath. They did nothing. The leather coat was meant to prevent plague from clinging to your body. In reality, it trapped heat, sweat, and bacteria, turning your own skin into an incubator. You also carried a wooden cane, not for walking, but for examination. You used it to lift clothing, probe buboes, and gesture to family members to step back, because even you understood. Touch meant death. The irony? The outfit's most effective feature was accidental. The mask's glass eye holes and the leather's coverage may have provided a crude barrier against droplet transmission, though no one at the time understood why. What the suit actually accomplished was psychological. It announced your presence from a distance. When people saw the beak turning the corner, they fled indoors, briefly reducing contact. The uniform didn't protect you from disease. It protected the healthy from each other. Your day begins with a list from the parish clerk, addresses of homes marked with the Red Cross and the words, "Lord have mercy upon us," painted on the door. By law, these houses are sealed for 40 days. A watchman stands outside day and night, ensuring no one leaves. The family inside, sick and healthy alike, are locked in together. You knock. The watchman steps aside. You enter. The stench hits first: unwashed bodies, festering buboes, human waste. Plague victims develop swellings in the neck, armpits, and groin. Buboes filled with pus and blood. The lumps can grow to the size of an apple. Fever follows. Delirium. Black patches on the skin where blood vessels have burst. Your task is to treat them using the principles of Galenic humorism, the ancient system that attributed disease to imbalances in the body's 4 humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, black bile. The cure: bloodletting. You open a vein with a phlegm, draining a pint or more, weakening patients already on the edge of shock. You lance buboes, releasing infected fluid. You apply poultices of butter, garlic, and onion. You place live frogs on the swellings, believing they'll draw out poison. Here's the thing about systems that refuse to update. They don't fail quietly. They kill loudly, repeatedly, with full institutional confidence. And every time reality contradicts the theory survives and the patient doesn't. Some patients improve, not because of your intervention, but because roughly 40% of bubonic plague victims survive if left alone. When they die, you record the death, collect your fee from the parish, and move to the next house. Treatment is only part of your role. You're also a record keeper, enforcer, and public health officer. After each death, you're required to compile a report for the bills of mortality, the weekly tallies published every Thursday that tracked plague deaths across London's parishes. In the week of September the 12th, the bill recorded 7,165 deaths. These numbers determined which neighborhoods were quarantined, which markets closed, which roads blocked. You also conducted autopsies, though few plague doctors had formal anatomical training. The task was to confirm plague as cause of death and, occasionally, to investigate suspicious cases. In cities like Florence and Perugia, this was standard procedure. In London, it was rarer, but it happened. You also witnessed wills. Plague struck fast. Patients could be healthy at breakfast and dead by supper. Families needed legal documentation before the ill lost coherence. You stood in infected rooms recording bequests while the dying dictated their final wishes. But here's what complicates the easy narrative. Some plague doctors genuinely tried to help. A physician named George Thompson stayed in London throughout the outbreak, experimenting with chemical treatments and documenting his observations. Another, Nathaniel Hodges, recorded detailed case notes that later contributed to medical understanding. They were outnumbered by opportunists and frauds, yes, but they existed. The plague doctor wasn't a single archetype. He was a spectrum, from cynical profiteer to doomed idealist. You are legally required to live apart. Many plague doctors were housed in pest houses, isolation facilities on the city's outskirts where the infected were sent to die. Others rented rooms in already contaminated districts where landlords had nothing left to lose. You couldn't enter a tavern, couldn't attend church, couldn't visit the market without people scattering. Samuel Pepys, in his diary entry for August 28, 1665, described London streets as populated by people walking like people that have taken leave of the world. You were the extreme version of that, a walking memento mori. Even your family kept distance. Pepys sent his wife to the countryside to escape infection, then faced the wrath of rural gentry who feared he'd bring plague to them. You had no such escape. The role was a trap. The pay was good, but you couldn't spend it anywhere respectable. You were saving money for a future you probably wouldn't live to see. And if you did survive? The stigma remained. Plague doctors were remembered as either fools or ghouls, depending on who told the story. What's rarely mentioned, many of you died. Exact numbers don't survive, but the mortality rate among plague doctors was significant. The mask didn't save you. The leather didn't save you. The herbs didn't save you. What occasionally saved you was luck, prior exposure granting partial immunity, or the randomness of transmission. By winter, the plague receded. The Great Fire of London in September 1666 cleansed whole districts, burning the wooden tenements where rats and fleas thrived. You removed the mask, burned the coat, and tried to rejoin a society that would never fully forget what you'd been. September 7th, 1665, the week the real doctors fled and the men in beaked masks stayed. The plague doctor wasn't a hero or a villain. He was what happens when a system collapses and someone still has to show up. The costume, the remedies, the rituals. They were theater performed over a void where knowledge should have been. Here's the lesson. When institutions fail, the gap doesn't stay empty. It gets filled by whoever's willing to wear the uniform, whether they know what they're doing or not. The beak becomes the authority. The appearance of competence replaces competence itself. And the people suffering can't tell the difference until it's too late. You see this pattern everywhere now. In a crisis, look for who stayed and who left. Look for whose methods are built on evidence and whose are built on costume. The plague doctor's beak was filled with flowers because it had to be filled with something, and flowers were easier than admitting ignorance. In your own life, in your workplace, in your government, when the crisis comes, ask yourself, are you looking at the beak or are you asking what's actually inside it? The people who walked into death in 1665 weren't the ones with the most knowledge. They were the ones with the most need, the most desperation, or the most recklessness. Sometimes that's enough. Sometimes it isn't. The difference is whether anyone bothers to check.